Alright, it's time to get started. Let's see. Got my microphone volume up, and I suppose I should turn the music down. Where is the button? Okay. Alright. Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to a live stream. I am Zach Whalen, and this is the live stream for Intro to Digital Studies. This is week 2 of the second summer term at the University of Mary Washington, and I am the professor. So today we're going to be talking about digital culture. It's the second major topic that we're covering in this class, and to do that, we're going to be covering that with a pretty major assignment. And so most of today's presentation actually is going to be helping you, the students in this class, prepare for that assignment. Now, I guess if you're watching this and you're not in the class, then that's fine. You're certainly welcome to watch, but this is going to be pretty, focused for my students as it should be. So thanks for watching, students. I changed the time. I hope that's okay. I think 1 o'clock works a little better for me this week, so I'm kind of curious to see how it goes for you. I'm just kind of looking at who's online right now. It looks like a slightly different set of people are online right now on Discord, so that's good. I've got 7 viewers on Twitch. And of course, for everyone else, I hope you're able to watch this in the archive on the YouTube playlist. I've been putting timestamps on those to help you navigate them, and this is what I'll do as well. I have a slideshow that'll help me kind of navigate my comments, and then as I'm presenting, and then you can look at it after the fact, click on those timestamps to see different topics as they come up. Also want to say I'm really glad to see a lot of you have already jumped in on the web literacy assignment. I can tell that because you've already completed the form, which I told you to try to complete by midnight tonight. I think last time I checked I had 7 responses already, which is great. So everyone else, certainly do that as soon as you can. Those of you who have already done it, if since you kind of jumped in there, if after I've presented to some different things here, you change your mind about certain topics, or you just think of it differently, then you can certainly resubmit that, and I'll just take your most recent submission. But otherwise, since it's first come, first serve, I'll try to go with what you already have and give you those topic assignments as quickly as possible. Basically, just after I finish this stream, I'll start working through those. Okay, so that's getting ahead a little bit, but I wanted to mention that for those of you who are already there. So our goals for today, I want to talk a little bit. This is kind of a preamble, kind of a thing to prepare you for getting into this project, which is to kind of think about browser privacy. And this is something that could actually be strategically important for your research, because the kind of research you'll find yourself doing here could take you to some different parts of the web than what you normally would experience. And those parts of the web can be a little bit yucky, and they can have a lot more spam and ads than you're used to in your normal browsing circles, whatever those are. But ultimately, our big goal here today is to learn about web literacy, and we're going to be doing an assignment on web literacy, and so I want to get you started on that assignment. Also wanted to say that some of you might still be trying to catch up on things from last week. I saw quite a few, like most of you have submitted all your work for last week, but there's maybe 5 or 6 that were still outstanding. So make sure you do that. Please submit it in Canvas. So even if you posted things on your blog already, I also need to see it in Canvas so that I know to go check your blog. Please do that. If you are, didn't mean to click yet. If you are still struggling with anything from week 1, please ask, because week 1 is really important as far as kind of building that foundation that everything else is built on top of. So if you're still struggling with something about setting up your website, please ask so I can help you get that set up, and so you can move on more comfortably to the next things, and you'll have a place to work on these things. Right. Also, don't forget you can schedule an appointment with me. Go ahead and throw my contact info up here. Oops, wrong browser tab. Let's try this one. ZachWhalen.net/contact is the best way to find my contact info, even though the listed hours there I think are incorrect. It's hard to update websites. I'm getting close actually. I'm pretty close to the new version of my website, but it's not there yet. But this Book Now thing does work, and you can also get straight to this through a Pointlet if you want, but or honestly just email me. But this is a way that you can schedule a specific block of time to go through something. I can do a text-based conversation, like a chat in Discord, or a voice chat in Discord, or just a one-on-one video conference in a separate platform. I like to use Whereby for that. So these are things that are available, resources available, or I am a resource that's available to you. Of course, the DKC is also a big resource that I know some of you have already been taking advantage of, which is excellent. I encourage everyone to, whenever you get stuck with something, you can book an appointment with them. These are other students that are consultants that are happy to help guide you through the kinds of things that I've been talking about in this class so far. Some of the things later on, they probably won't have as much ability to cover, but a lot of what we're doing as far as setting up a domain, installing WordPress, blogging, these are things that they're very familiar with and very happy to help you with. Okay, so these are the goals for today. Let's start off talking a bit about web browser security. Oh, and by the way, if you have questions as I'm going, I am keeping an eye on the Twitch chat and the Discord chat, but not YouTube. So this is live streaming on YouTube as well, but that's more just for archival purposes. I don't actually check the comments on those. So, Twitch and Discord are the ways to go if you have any questions or comments as I'm going along here today. So let's talk about web browser security. Now, if you are a user of computers, you've been using web browsers, but I have noticed that increasingly the web browser that comes with your operating system, and your operating system here is going to be Windows or Macintosh or maybe Linux, but each of these has a browser built into the operating system in such a way that the designers of the operating systems try to make that such a seamless thing that you may not even notice or know the name of your web browser that you're using. So I wanted to put this out here just in case you're not sure. So if you see any of these names, these are web browsers. Web browser is a specific application on your computer that accesses the web. And there are many, many. These are some of the most popular ones. And if you are on a Macintosh computer, you are using Safari by default unless you install something else. If you're on a Windows computer, you're using Microsoft, I think it's Edge. Now I think it has I think Edge has fully replaced Explorer now. But these are installed by default, and they, in a lot of ways try to disguise the fact that they're a separate application. And I think that's really unfortunate, especially when you're trying to learn about the web and how to use it and how to design for it, because different applications have different parameters as far as what they do for you in terms of the web. In general, I really recommend Firefox or Chrome. These are both free. They're both cross-platform. You can install them on Macs or Windows. Chrome, I am using Chrome right now. I'm just kind of in the habit of using Chrome. You do have to use I don't know, Chrome is a very heavyweight application. It uses way more memory than it really probably needs to. A lot of kind of junk built into it at this point. Firefox is much more customizable, and so it tends to work better for a lot of things. And I've been trying to get into the habit more of using Firefox myself. But I have both, and I go back and forth. Microsoft Edge and Safari, I mean, there are things that they don't tell you about what they're doing that I find frustrating, and that's kind of the short version of what to say about it. So when you get to the point where you're trying to hand code for the web or any kind of web development, you will find it harder if you're using Microsoft Edge and Safari. And also, even if you're doing things like publishing a Twine game, you will have a harder time in Safari than you will with Microsoft Edge. That's just my experience. So take it for what it is. Opera is good, but kind of quirky and very, very lightweight, and quick. But I like Opera. It's just a very, very small user base, but a very dedicated user base. Brave, I just wanted to mention because Brave is something that, I'm going to talk a little bit about plugins you can use to kind of secure your browsing. Brave is a browser that comes with a lot of that built into it, so it's already a pretty secure browser. My only issue with Brave, and I don't know enough about this to really have a conclusive statement about Brave, but it has some kind of crypto coin incentive built into it, and I don't really understand how that works, but it has something to do with sending them ad revenue instead of the different advertisers, and I haven't really read all that. I don't really understand it, so that's the only thing I feel iffy about. It might be kind of problematic, but I don't know because I haven't really read it. But it's a decent on its own it runs pretty much very similarly to Chrome, but it's already pre-hardened with a lot of security features which are nice, which I'll show you some in a moment. So with Firefox or Chrome, there are certain things that you will want to do to make them work well for it. And these are some plugins that I think are a good idea to have. There's actually a ton of these different kinds of things that are out there. I'm just kind of putting these on the screen and inviting you to research these on your own. I mean, I can show them to you a bit, but I'll explain what they do, but this is not a super thorough presentation about browser security. I just wanted to make sure you know a few things. So uBlock Origin, there's lots of different ad block plugins, and the one I use and recommend is uBlock Origin, and you can see it right here. It's this little red shield icon that pops up, and let me see, there's been a few different generations of this software, so I want to make sure I'm still using the right one. It looks the same. Okay, I hope this is the right one. So anyway, because there was a similarly named plugin for a while that actually it turned out it said it was blocking ads and tracking cookies, but it was actually harvesting user data. I think that was AdBlock Plus. I should double check that. But anyway, uBlock Origin works well for me. And what it does is it blocks ads, and it's very thorough and rigorous at blocking ads on websites. It also has the ability to whitelist different websites if you want to do that, if you do want to see ads on certain places or support certain websites with ad revenue. But it really just makes your experience of the web a lot better. So I really like uBlock Origin. Another one that's really easy and common sense is HTTPS everywhere. You can see the icon here. What all this does is, like, whenever your browser visits a website, which is what you're doing with a web browser, if there is an option to access it using HTTPS instead of HTTP, then it'll choose the HTTPS version. It'll basically check, is HTTPS available, and if so, then it'll switch to that. And the S there means security. It means that it's an encrypted connection, which means if you send any kind of private data like a social security number or bank data in back and forth between your computer and that web server, HTTPS is going to lock that into an encrypted transmission. So it's not going to be visible to anyone else that might be sniffing your packets or like trying to intercept your web traffic. Okay, so HTTPS is, anywhere that you're entering information, it's a good idea to have HTTPS on anyway, and most websites will have that automatically, but this plugin just defaults to that on its own. Dashlane, there's a bunch of different password managers. I use Dashlane, but there's really, the differences between them are pretty minimal. There's Dashlane, there's KeepPass, OnePass, LastPass, and I've used all of those at different points in my life. I'm currently using Dashlane. I'm probably going to stick with it for a little while anyway. The basic way you would compare these is some of them are free, some of them are not. Some of them are free until you upgrade to the premium, and different things like that. But the nice thing about a password manager is when you have a ton of different things to log into, you let the password manager remember the password. So you just make the password something super long and random that is very secure and not at risk of being hacked, but it's so secure you don't even know it. And you don't have to know it. Like, that's the best kind of security, is like where you don't even know your own password. So you can't, accidentally divulge it or put it somewhere that it doesn't belong because you don't even know it. You let the password manager software remember your passwords for you, and then you're good. And then finally, NoScript, and this was actually not finally, DuckDuckGo. So DuckDuckGo is a search engine, and it's not really a plugin, but it's what you can set up as your default. So I'll just Google myself here or search for myself here. Zach, the DuckDuckGo it's another search engine, but they don't track your searches. They don't use your search history to send customized ads to you. So it's a good idea. And yeah, this is me. I haven't checked my search results for a while, but this is me. This is me. This is not me. This is Zach Whalen underwater, who is someone who has the same name as me, but does underwater photography, which I think is pretty cool. So anyway, that's DuckDuckGo. I do have the bird cam on, by the way, and there's a wren checking out the, he's inside the bird feeder now. I'm not sure how he got in there, but I hope he can get out. But I have not, the bird feeder does not have bird feed in it, so I need to refill that. Okay, that's him singing. Do you hear that? He's like, hey, there's no food here. Anyway, finally, NoScript is just a way that will turn off a ton of stuff if you're really concerned about scripts and things running in the background, but NoScript is just for Firefox. Okay, something else you can do, and I promise I am getting to the web literacy part of this, but these are just some good practices of web browsing while we're at it, right? Something you should do and you should be aware of is your Google Ads settings. Yeah, MHBen is asking about VPNs. I actually have that on a slide here just as kind of for even more security if you want to go further. I don't use a VPN, a third-party VPN, I should say. I use UMW's VPN because I don't know if students have access to that, but faculty do. But basically all that does is that I'm at home right now, but I can use the VPN to pretend that I'm on campus, and that's helpful for certain reasons. VPNs, I don't know. I'm paranoid about VPNs because I think they present sort of a false sense of security in the sense that you're sending all your traffic through a specific VPN server and trusting that server not to do something nefarious with your traffic. So you have to really trust this company, this VPN company, before you use it. And so I have not actually done enough research to feel confident in any particular VPN company. It's also not a huge priority for me. I'm not doing the kind of research that I really feel like needs to be protected that much. That's a similar calculation with Tor. Tor is free, but it just takes a lot to build. It takes some work to set up Tor, although it is built into the Brave browser. You can actually just open a new tab in Brave that's a Tor tab, and then you're on the Tor network. It's a little bit more overhead in terms of getting started, and it's also going to run much more slowly than just straightforward web browsing. So these are things that I would only use if you had a really specific reason to, and that would be something like doing research on the kind of thing that you don't want to show up in your history. And there are legitimate academic reasons to do research on things like that, obviously, but you don't want to get that kind of traffic on your computer. So these are things that are maybe the next step, the next level up. Let me go back a little bit. Just something, again, this is common sense. If you take a look at your Google Ads settings, I don't mind showing mine. These are the things that Google thinks I'm interested in. And I mean, some of these are wildly inaccurate, and some of them are kind of eerily precise, I suppose. I don't know, nothing too embarrassing here that I'm seeing. Most of these things make sense, I guess. But if you, the thing that Google offers is, like, if you see something that is not appropriate, that you don't want to see ads for, you can delete it. So all my kids are potty trained. I don't need that anymore. So, these are things that, most of these things I'm not that interested in, but I don't necessarily care about either way. You can also turn this entire thing off. And so I leave mine on mainly so I can demonstrate it to you all like I'm doing now, but you can also just turn off ad customization entirely if you want to. But to do that, you go to adssettings.google.com. Of course, you have to be logged into a Google account to do that. You might actually have to, come to think of it, I think you also have to set up two-factor authentication to do that. But check that out at some point, and it's not a bad idea. Okay, so another external link here. As you're thinking about what you look like to web browsers, right? So this is, when we're talking about privacy, we're talking about preventing what you're doing from being discovered by other parties, like advertisers or, I don't know, spies or hackers. So what we're trying to do is harden your browsing experience, or anonymizing it in ways that no one else can figure out who you are or what you're doing or why. And so this website, coveryourtracks.eff, used to be called Panopticlick. I guess they just changed their name. It lets you test your browser. Now, I'm not going to do this now because in doing this, it's going to actually divulge, like put on the screen, the information that it finds out about me. And I don't want to put that on the stream, but it's going to give you basically a rating of how secure are you right now. So I recommend trying it in different web browsers. So we go back here, right? So try it in these different browsers, see how it is. I think you find that Safari and Edge are actually okay in terms of security out of the box, but you can go much further with Firefox and Chrome. So that's one reason why I recommend Firefox and Chrome. Okay, that's about all I had to say about web browser security and so on. Again, these are just kind of common sense things that are helpful, and especially now as you get ready to explore the kinds of websites that you might not normally explore, and you might not want to be like part of your browser history, your search history. Of course, I don't know if I need to even explain this, but you also have the ability with these web browsers to open incognito mode or private mode, depending on different names. Most browsers have that built in. And yeah, it's a good idea, especially as you're doing research. The challenge there is, like, sometimes the private mode, the incognito browser by its nature won't record anything or keep track of your history, and sometimes you kind of want that history in case you need to retrace your steps. So I don't always use them for this kind of thing, but they do exist, incognito mode. But they're not necessarily that much more secure, except that they don't record your history in your browser experience, right? It's more about incognito mode. Private mode would be more about local security, like someone that uses the same computer as you wouldn't be able to see the history of what you've been looking at. But as far as different websites, they have as much information about you as they might normally, other than cookies. Right? Usually private mode would block cookies. Anyway, so when we talk about web literacy, some of what I'm talking about now is a bit technical, but as we're getting into this unit, I want to talk about something a little differently. So not tech literacy or web literacy in that sense, but cultural literacy in terms of what we find on the web, what we do with what we find, and how we work with that. That's what we're interested in here when we talk about digital culture. Basically, digital culture just means all of the stuff that is produced by human society on digital platforms. All this, I don't know, this is a pretty vague kind of way to say it, but it's the things that make us who we are. And so these are things that we need to be informed about, and there are specific literacies that we need to practice in these environments. So this particular assignment has to do with what I'm calling web literacy. And this implies that there is a web illiteracy that there is a state of being uninformed about this material and about these processes, and that can be harmful. Like that's a bad situation to be in, and in fact it probably describes the majority of users, unfortunately. And so what we're trying to do is move beyond that. We're trying to improve the overall literacy of these spaces, both by being better consumers and users of these platforms, but also by putting better information into these platforms, like actually not spreading disinformation, basically, is what we're talking about. So let's take a look at some resources for this. The main resource, the information we're going to be looking at this from, is a textbook by Mike Caulfield, and this is an open source textbook. You can access it here. You might have even seen this before. Some of the first year seminars at UMW, I think, still use this for certain things, and that's fine. I mean, it's great to revisit it, right? So check it out. Web literacy for student fact checkers. This website's a little. This actually is a textbook, but it's a website. I just wanted to show you quickly how to navigate this. You click on the left, which is just above my head here, and you see the chapters or sections really. So like section 1 has chapters 1, 2, and 3 in it. Section 2 has 3 chapters in it. Section 3 has a lot of chapters in it. But many of these chapters are fairly short, and you will probably be reading most of this textbook at some point this week, just in different, as you need different things or as you look through different things. But most of these chapters are literally like 1 page long, so pretty easy, right? So that's our textbook. Also, another resource that's going to be useful or could be useful is a blog created by Mike Caulfield, 4moves.blog. And it looks like he hasn't updated this in about a year, actually, but there are lots of kind of test cases or example inquiries here. So these are things where he's putting something out here, a claim, a viral kind of claim in social media, and without answering the question. So is this true or not? And so this is something that you can kind of use to practice. Like you can use these different things to practice your web literacy fact-checking skills as we proceed through this week. Okay, there's actually many more websites and resources like this that I'll probably be referring to, but the main one here is Mike Caulfield. If I can find it, I forgot to look it up beforehand, but there was a nice New York Times profile of him recently that covered this material, and actually in that interview he talked a little bit about some different ways he's thinking about this material now, but it's still very useful, I think, and I really like it, so we're going to use it. Okay, hope that makes sense. All right, so I wanted to give kind of a summary of the central principles in this book to help you kind of recognize it when you see it. And he keeps talking about this idea of 4 moves, and these are rhetorical moves, or I guess critical moves, it would be a better word, not rhetorical moves. Critical moves that you make whenever you're faced with a dubious claim. So let's imagine a scenario. You see something on Facebook. One of your friends has shared a link to an article on Facebook. The title sounds kind of suspicious. So what are the things you can do to find out, is this true or not? What are the things you can do? So you have a question, so what do you want to do about it? And these are 4 things that you should do, and these are presented in order. So you would do step 1 first, usually step 2, then 3, and then 4. And there's actually kind of a 5th implied step that I will also talk about as well. But it's that really the 5th step. It's also the 0th step as well. I hope that'll make sense when I get to it. But the first thing is just like, this sounds like fake news. Is it? And really just searching for it to see if someone else has already found out, is this fake or not? That might be all you have to do for a scenario where someone has shared fake news and you want to know if it's true or not. So go to your favorite search engine and search for it. And if you find a reputable source saying, hey, this is fake, then you're done. Now there's a big part of that, which is finding a reputable source, a source you trust. But once you find one, then you're good. So there are quite a few websites and news agencies that really focus on fact checking. Snopes is probably the most famous one. PolitiFact. I think there's factcheck.org. And these are sources. These are sites that do, I think, a good job of showing their work, explaining their reasoning, and telling you, true or false, basically. So if you trust those sites, if you trust that kind of research, that's great. Then you're done. Now, we are going to be producing that kind of research for this class as well. So as you're thinking about claims to research and the claims that you're going to actually do that fact-checking work on, if you do this first step on the claim you're interested in and you find that there's a really good Snopes article about it, that's probably not a good one for this assignment because it's already been done by Snopes. So, we'll get to that in a bit, but that's something to keep in mind, right? But that's step 1 is check for previous research. Has this happened? Has this come up already? Okay, if not, then where does this claim come from? what is the website it's from. Like on Facebook, usually you can see the domain name, or on Twitter, you can see the domain name that it comes from. If it's a screenshot of a tweet, you can see the account that it comes from. But go upstream as far as you can. So who was the originator of this claim? And what do you know about them? Right? Is this from someone you trust, or is it someone that has a reputation for falsehood? And then if you already know enough about that source to make a conclusion either way, then you can say, well, this is fake or this is not, and move on from there. But if you're not sure, there is another step. So that's what you do though. But the main thing to do is go back as far as you can into the source. We're talking about social media, Twitter. Things go viral, and because one aspect, what we mean when we say something has gone viral is that it's been passed through multiple steps in a chain of communication before it got to us. And so in step 2 here, going upstream, you're kind of reversing that process to see where did this start. And then if you can find that and you know something about that source, then you can make a conclusion either way based on that source. Okay, then step 3 is, let's say you get to that source, you're not sure if it's reliable or not, then you can read laterally. This is Mike Caulfield's term for trying to understand the reliability of a source. So you're trying to figure out what is their reputation for telling the truth. And this takes a little bit of skill, and we'll work on a couple exercises that'll help us practice this. But that's the idea here, reading laterally. And then the final step is, kind of a cheating step, but it's really just, if you don't find an answer, go back and try again, right? So just kind of keep going back and keep going back and keep going at. If you still have doubts about a claim, then, the main thing is don't share it, right? These things become viral because people keep sharing them. But as I said in the notes for today, most of the links that people share on Facebook, they have not read. Most of the time, if you see a link that someone has shared on Facebook, they have not actually read the article that's behind it. Well, I say most, it's something like 60% of the time they have not actually read that article. The main thing that we're trying to stop is that sort of uncritical sharing, that you see a title, you feel an emotion about it, and then you click share, and then you kind of move on with your day. But that's the problem. Like, that's the thing that these platforms like Facebook are designed to encourage you to do. But that thing that you've done, if you share an article that you haven't read that promotes harmful fake news, that's the problem. Like, you're part of the problem if you do that. So don't do that. Okay, so this is circling back. Oops. The main thing that Mike Caulfield insists on, and I do as well, I'm going to move out of my way so I can see it, is don't trust your gut. This is the problem, because fake news spreads because people don't realize it's fake news, because they see a title, they see some information that conforms to their belief in some ways. It makes them feel an emotion. They feel angry, or they feel scared, or they feel frustrated, or they feel smug superiority or something. They feel something, and that feeling is what drives them to share it. And that feeling, that's your gut feeling about it. And that's not, we can't count on that. That's the point here. Our guts are unreliable. So do not just trust your gut. Especially when you're trying to fact check these things, when you're writing an article trying to fact check something, I don't want to see you write things like, well, this just makes sense, or like, this just doesn't make sense. You're referencing an idea of common sense, but that's the problem. Is like, we're looking for information that is true, not information that sounds like it's true. And it's a big difference. So we'll be talking about that as we prepare this assignment. If you take nothing else away from this, don't trust your gut, right? Do your own fact checking, or at least know how to do your fact checking before you share something. Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about the assignment itself. Now, this is a complicated assignment. Let me show it to you here. It's complicated in the sense that it has I've written a fairly lengthy set of instructions. And I know it's long, but it's not something you have to take on or tackle all at once today. So I've broken it down into steps, and I've suggested that you should probably do step 1 today, and steps 2 and 3 tomorrow, and steps 4 and 5 on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. So I've tried to break it down to make it a bit easier to manage. But let me just give you kind of a quick overview of these steps, and then take a little bit of closer look at step 1. Because step 1 is choosing a claim to investigate. You will be choosing a claim and writing a fact-checking article about it. You can use this Google form to suggest which claims, but I'll get back to that in a second. Once you've chosen a claim, or really once you've expressed a preference and I've told you which of those preferences to pursue, then you should begin investigating. And you've got different methodologies explained in the textbook, and we'll talk about some more and do some practices tomorrow, some practice exercises tomorrow. And then, so you do that research and write your article. There's a template for your article that I will show you how to fill in, but that's the idea. You'll edit your article to make sure it's written clearly and from a neutral point of view. You will review other people's articles and make sure that they are written correctly and with a neutral point of view. I'll add a special channel here in Discord. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do it now so I don't forget. Oops, typed that wrong. So I just made that channel in Discord. So you'll use that to share your article when you feel like it's ready to be reviewed. Please try to do that by midnight on Wednesday so that other people have a chance to review it. And then you'll respond to their comments and reviews and finalize your article and then finally reflect on it. So it's a lot. Now, like I said, it's a lot. One thing that you should just to be aware of, I originally had this, like in the past, I've done this as a group project. So different groups were working on, like 4 or 5 people working on the same article together. That became very hard, very challenging to manage over the summer term when people have such different schedules. So I'm making this an individual assignment instead, and I hope that's okay. My expectations as far as the length of the assignment are, the article that you produce, I understand you're one person. So I'm not expecting like the same amount of research that a 5 or 6 people could do, but really I found that a lot of that research was kind of redundant anyway, and so I think a single person per topic makes sense anyway, regardless of the logistic aspect of it. Okay, so these are the steps. Details are there and will be kind of further clarified as we go through the week. But let me talk a bit about step 1, which is what we're doing today. Okay, actually here's the overview. So step 1, choose a topic, learn about the methodology, and here what we mean. So choosing a claim to investigate. So I've seen some claims already on the form, so that's good. But let me kind of help you think a little bit about what makes a good claim for this assignment. A good claim is going to be something that is by its nature verifiable, something that it is possible to find out whether this is true or not. And that doesn't necessarily mean possible or impossible for you this week, but just possible or impossible generically, like in general. Like, is this something that can be proven? So there are certain kinds of claims that just by their nature cannot be proven. And I'll talk a little bit about different kinds of claims, but think of things like, I don't know if I want to go here, but does life exist beyond death? Something that you may believe one way or another, but that you're not going to be able to prove one way or another just by its nature. So these are the kinds of questions you want to avoid. You don't want to avoid those very big philosophical questions. Also, you want to find, if you can, something that actually has circulated, because that'll give you some research to do. It'll give you some, something to work with, some traction with it. So something you actually come across in social media. I've personally kind of pruned a lot of my social media, so I'm not seeing a lot of things like that, just generically, organically, I suppose. But maybe you'll see those kinds of things, or maybe you'll find them out there. I don't know. I do have a list of suggested kind of recurring topics that you might find, and it's a Google Doc that I need to track down. But I can share that in Discord if anyone's having a hard time finding a topic. But I've put several suggestions in the forum, and so look for things like that. One way you might find things like that is take one of the topics that I've suggested, go on Twitter, search for that topic, and you will probably find other topics being searched at this or being tweeted by the same people. So like somebody who's tweeting that 5G causes COVID-19 is probably also going to have other ideas that are similarly dubious. So these are things that this is a way you might find these kinds of things. Also, try to find something that has not already been really well covered. So if you go to Google News, this is how I usually do my news now. So if you go over here, Google News actually has this fact check bar over here on the right. And so if you find something that's already got a nice PolitiFact article about it or an AFP fact check about it, these are things that probably don't need, they won't be as much work for you to do. So I don't recommend doing topics that you find this way. I don't recommend finding topics this way, but also once you do that checking for prior work step on your topic, and if you find a really good Snopes article, then don't do that one. Okay, So let's talk a little bit about different types of claims to kind of think about that idea of verifiability. So this is just a very brief kind of lesson in rhetoric, I suppose, or persuasive speaking and writing. Sorry, my son. You might hear my son screaming in the background. He's fine. His friend is over here, and I don't know what they're doing, but they're playing. So in case you hear screaming, it's playing. So these are 3 different types of claims, and you can break these down in different ways, and there's different examples. But this is just a very simple way of thinking about it. So a claim of fact, right? A claim of fact is something that says whether or not something is true. So Titanic is a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. So that's a claim of fact. That is either true or it is not true. A claim of value puts that on a scale somehow. So the claim of value could say Titanic is the greatest movie of all time. You and I may disagree about that, but ultimately it's a hard thing to prove because, well, for one reason, time is not complete yet. So there may be future movies that are better than Titanic. But also greatness is not a value that we can quantify and then measure and compare. We could feel certain ways about it, but ultimately we can't prove that. And then a claim of policy, this is when we would talk about the future or talk about the ways that things should be. And if we are a big fan of Titanic, as we seem to be on this slide, then we might say that everyone must watch this movie, like everyone should watch this movie. All right, so in terms of verifiability, typically claims of fact are verifiable. Certainly not always, but this is something we could verify. In this case, we could watch the movie Titanic and then verify, was Leonardo DiCaprio in it? Yes, then we verified that fact. Or was he not in it? Then we would have disproven that fact. But either way, we verified that fact. We assessed that as a provable claim and found it either true or false. As far as thinking about it as the greatest value movie of all time, we can't really verify that. We could qualify that claim in some way. We might say best rated, or we might say highest grossing, or kind of put that into different values that we might argue are proxies for greatness, but we wouldn't ultimately be able to say this is the greatest movie of all time or not. And then finally, of course, everyone must watch Titanic. We can't really verify that that or not. That's not a verifiable claim. That's about the future. Okay, so once you've decided what to do, submit your choices using this form. And I forgot to make this a link to the form, but you can see it here. Very simple, right? So tell me your name, first choice, first, second, third, and then if you have a fourth, go ahead with the fourth choice. So I'm not going to show names on here, but you can see that they are there are some themes already emerging, I think. So that's all right. It doesn't have to be something COVID related if you want. There are unfortunately quite a few claims circulating about COVID that are dubious, but with the vaccines, but that's not required. If you're sick of hearing about these kinds of things, then certainly feel free to find something else. But yeah, it's great to see 8 responses already. So I'll take a look through those shortly and get back to you about that. Okay, so we're just about done. Let me show you I'll go ahead and show you the next next step of the process, which would be after you've got your topic and you've started doing your research, then you should start working on the Google Doc template. So let me just show you this template and what you should do with it, and then I'll wrap things up. So this is the template, and the way this is meant to be is the black text is what you would write in this, or what would be in your article, and then the blue text is my explanations of it. So you would delete these statements that I've made as you complete the article, and you will change at least these first 2, right? Because I've set this in here as an example claim, or and you may have heard this claim, the claim that birds are not real. They are, well, what are they? What are birds? I don't know. But some people claim that birds are not real, that they are actually drones that are spying on us. I don't think people make that claim seriously, but it exists. So, but anyway, the point is you should state your claim in the form of a question, like, do 5G networks cause COVID-19? Right. So you're going to put it as a question, and then you're going to answer the question. Go for yes or no if you can, and but be honest, right? If you ultimately can't prove it either way, say probably not, or probably. There's different ways you could qualify that, but try to avoid qualification as much as you can. Make it as definitive as possible. Yes or no are the best case scenarios for that. All right, so then the next bit here, Yeah, find some real world examples of someone making this claim. If it's a tweet, you can take a screenshot of that tweet. If it's a Facebook post, again, screenshots. Try to blur out people's actual names in these, but get the record that they put that in there. Try not to link to websites. So if there is a website that's circulating misinformation, the reason they do that is so that people visit their website and then click on their ads, and then they get money from that. So if you link to their website with false information on it, you have kind of done the thing they want you to do. So don't link to it, but you can provide screenshots, and that would be good. Screenshots are better than links in this case, and that's usually not the case, but in this case it is. Okay, so and I don't know, I can show you different methods for doing screenshots. Maybe that's, since I'm running long on time, I'll put that tomorrow. But there are ways you can kind of safely take screenshots and prepare them for this. All right, so this will take a little bit more research. So once you found it, why does this exist? Like, if this is fake news, why did someone decide to put this on the web? And you might have to speculate a little bit. You might have to do a little bit of third-party kind of lateral thinking to try to figure this out. But do some research, right? Go into Google Scholar and see if you can find historical research about this kind of claim that you're looking at. I bet you could find something about a lot of the topics you all are already suggesting. So, figure out where this comes from as much as you can. Not just examples of it, but like, where did those examples come from? And then finally, or not finally, tell me kind of, how do you know this is true or false? What is your source for the truth, and how do you know it's reliable? And this is where I really want to see multiple sources. So it's not just you Google it and you found a Snopes article and you're done, because that's not really doing research. That's just looking up the answer. I want you to actually find out what you can from as many primary sources as you can, as many real kind of content sources as you can. But as you do, make sure you explain how you know that this is true. Make sure you explain that this is definitely true, this is definitely false, and I know that because here's a peer-reviewed academic article about it, or something like that. We'll talk about evidence a little bit too, but tomorrow. But that's the idea. Finally, just add your name here. Now, to do this, this is my template document. So to get started, what you'll want to do is go to File and then Make a Copy. So you're not able to edit this copy. Let's go to File, Make a Copy, and then you'll have a copy that you can edit. So that's the copy that you'll be sharing in Discord when you're ready for people to review it. As you do that, though, make sure you know this is a way that you can share it that lets people suggest or make comments, as opposed to editing it directly. So when you go to share it, I'm not going to do this right now, but you can change it to anyone with a link can, actually I already did. So usually you would have these three options, or default to viewer, anyone with the link can view, but I want you to switch it to comment so that someone else could see your article and then add comments to it, right? And so this is how we're going to accomplish a little bit of peer review for this. My hope is that you will get peer reviews from at least 2 of your peers. And also, I do expect you personally to do a peer review for at least 2 others' articles as they come in. So another incentive to kind of get yours in early, so you get people reviewing it and giving you feedback to help you make it even better. Okay, so I've covered a lot in this talk today, so I'm going to wrap it up soon. But I'll hang out for I'll just kind of fill some time here for a few more minutes, just in case you have questions that you want to ask me right now. But I will be in the Office Hours Discord channel shortly. I will need to go get something to drink, I think, but I'll be back. I'll be on there in a minute. If you see me online, like if you see me active and in Discord and online in the voice channel for the Office Hours, feel free to drop in and ask any questions, or just say hi, whatever. I'm happy to be in there, but I want to make sure you all are getting off to a good start. Don't forget, especially fill out that topic. So what I'll do is I'll go through those topics and kind of do a little bit of collating and sorting, and I'll email you with, maybe I'll just Discord, just to keep things in one place. I'll Discord message you with your which topic I would like for you to work on out of those that you have suggested. And if there's some topics, like if I don't see a good one at all, then I'll follow up and kind of help you find a better one. Okay, so that's our big thing. Oh yeah, I forgot one more thing. So much going on this week. I do want you to also do a digital studies module this week, and this is kind of going on in the background. It's there's a lot of options here. I'm not going to go through them all here, but these are things that would basically amount to a couple of blog entries on your website about whichever of these topics, these cultural modules that you choose. These are pretty thorough and also pretty diverse, so I think you'll probably find something you can work with. Just remember, whenever you see any references to Slack on this website, that should actually be Discord. And I don't actually have channels for most of these yet, but what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to go ahead and just make it possible for you all to create channels on your own. So if there's a channel you need, like if you want to do the memes module, and that channel doesn't exist yet, I'll make it so that you can create your own channels for that. I just need to, yeah, I need to go to the role permission stuff on the Discord server, but I'll do that later. Okay, so I think I'm not seeing any questions recently, so I think you all are, I hope that means you all are okay, that this is making sense so far. It's another busy week, but that's how this summer, how it goes with these summer terms. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be online for a little while, and you know, turning on my outro music. Yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.